How many of you can relate to that?
I mean, that's touching. Shout out to your granddaughter who is awesome and has great awkward taste. But I think that's something that I do strive toward more for my own comfort, just to be like, I cannot be the only person that feels this way. I cannot be the only person that that feels uncomfortable and that feels socially anxious during these particular moments. And so it resonates with me when people can watch something and be like, oh my God, that's me, or I know somebody like that, or I get that, I've been through that. Because I feel like that's when it becomes like deeply personal, and I fulfill the purpose of it in a sense.
I want to ask you if you mind doing something. Can we stand for a little bit? Just stand.
I'm so scared.
Okay. I talked to you just standing up for a little bit because my energy is better when I'm standing. I hate when somebody makes me sit. I have to tell you this. I was so happy that you were going to be here tonight, and I wanted to welcome you to Chicago. As I was watching this, I see a mogul in the making, right? And I want to ask, where did the writing and the acting come from? I know that you came up through YouTube, but I mean before YouTube.
I was acting in like my first play that I ever did was in Maryland, and it was in elementary school in 5th grade. I'll never forget. We were studying A Midsummer Night's Dream, and my English teacher cast me as Demetrius, which is a guy's role. So I was this little black girl with my cornrows playing Demetrius, but I got really into it, and they encouraged me. They were like, "You got really into the role. This is good. You should consider it." And I was like, "What?" And then in middle school, put on my own first play at church, and it was like a parody called The Old and the Rested, because my church had a whole lot of women. It was just me, telling them about themselves. And my record was like, "Oh, you have a voice. Like you should." I just saw him recently, and he brought it up. He was like, I always remember that play, and I was like, you encouraged me, so thank you. And then just doing it in high school, in middle school, then acting in high school. I had a great Jewish teacher who, went to high school on the border of Compton and Watts, and he would always find these like rich, black, undiscovered plays and untapped plays for us to perform, and that always, I always appreciated him for doing that. And by the time I got to college, there weren't, like the drama department was heavily white, and there was this one girl who cast me in her play. It was a hip opera, and that was the last acting role I'd done since Awkward Black Girl. But I remember watching her, and she was just basically like, "I'm gonna put on my own hip opera. I'm gonna produce it. I'm gonna write it. I'm gonna direct it, and the school is gonna pay me to do it." And they, she tapped into the school's resources, and I was always impressed by that. Like, wow, she's just a regular person. She's doing it. And I can't remember if she either graduated or she just didn't do another play, but I was like, I'm doing this, and tapped into the school's money like she did, and produced plays for the rest of my time there. And then my senior year, I'm a huge procrastinator too, and anything that I could do to put off doing a paper, I would. And so I had an idea, because I was on Facebook at the time and YouTube, to do a web series and share it on Facebook. And the first web series I ever did was in 2006, 2007, called Dorm Diaries, and it was about being black at Stanford. And having that kind of spread, it was never viral. It was like 500 views, maybe 1,000 views, but I was like, whoa, it's outside my friendship circle. And other people from like Georgetown and Duke were like, this is my college experience too. And at the time I was still trying to break into the industry with a friend of mine, the traditional way, but just found like this, felt like I found a shortcut. So that always stood with me, and then, sort of kept that in the back of my mind and created another web series in 2009. So Awkward Black Girl ended up being my third web series, and that's what got me here.
And that's the one that had like what, over how many millions of views?
Yeah, over 20 million views across the episode.
Okay, yeah. The other thing, you know what, maybe there are a few questions I wanted to ask. I'm going to go back to those, but I got to get to this one. What is a broken pussy?
Was not expecting that. Maybe I should have read the question. It was so elegant the way that you asked that. A broken pussy is, I think the characters described it well. It's a vagina that's tired, that's worn out, and that has had enough. And a real life conversation that, one of my best friends and I had, where we were just talking about, we do use like the Marge Simpson voices to talk as our vaginas, and like if we're not feeling a guy, then we'll be like, my pussy was like, talked about that as a concept. So I was telling Larry that, and Larry Wilmore, just in one of our main conversations before we started writing the pilot, he was like, I don't care what we do, that's going to be it.
My follow-up question was going to be, how do you know if you have one? But I don't think I have to ask that. I think that's enough.
Please don't ask me that.
There's so many things that you have in here that I know, working class women, corporate women can relate to in the African American community, just like the face that you put on at the office and the face that you put on with your girlfriends. Both you, where I got y'all at work, and Molly at her corporate job. At one time, people used to write about them as if they were something so, like this is just so big or so different, or almost an anthropological study. But you know what? I bet you could ask, probably so many women in this audience, the men too. I bet it's so much more common than we think. Is that when you were writing about it, what was your experience?
Yeah, I think that's just the nature of being Black. That we wear so many hats. We have so many personalities. We're constantly being chameleons. We're trying to fit in or to blend in so that we don't stand out or make our presence known so that no one tramples us. Like there's just always a nature of being this person here and being this person there, and it's something that comes natural to a lot of us because we've had to do it. Just over the years of being in this country. But I think I just wanted to express the difference between someone who can do it seamlessly and someone who hasn't really grasped that yet, and to show that there is a difference, like that not all Black people, are the same in the sense, but and then to express that as a point of admiration for my character, like the fact that Molly can blend between these two worlds so seamlessly and be loved by all, and for her to feel like she can't even connect with these Black kids, though these white people expect her to, because they kind of see them all as one. So that was definitely something that I wanted to point out. But it's something that I just love about us as a culture.
And also, another thing that I admired the opening here. I felt it was so artistic. Whose idea was that opening? It reminded me, it put me in the mind of something that Spike Lee would do, because I always like the openings of Spike Lee's movies. Both, and I don't know if you saw Chirac, but just the call and chant thing reminded me of that a little bit.
I haven't seen that, but that all credit for that opening goes to Lena Matsukas, our director, who's just incredible visually, and that's one of the things that drew me to her in the first place. And she had never directed a television show before, and this was her first pilot, and it's just, you know, such an honor, just the way that she I felt like elevated this aesthetically, and she has such a specific lens and a way of viewing things that it did almost feel like the opening of a music video, or, you know, that you're stepping into this world, and she's bringing you into a part of LA, so that's all props to her.
The other thing is, I noticed that when you talk about a specific area, you are bringing us into South LA. You don't say South Central, it's South LA. Tell us a little bit about the difference between that.
Well, one, there's definitely a negative connotation when you bring up South Central, and that's because of movies like Menace to Society and Boys in the Hood that have depicted it, and even the media, as just like a gang-ridden, like crime-ridden place, and that's just not been my experience. And so, and even in watching other movies about LA or shows about LA, they're always set in Beverly Hills or Hollywood or Silver Lake, and that doesn't really represent where I grew up. And I wanted to show that yes, there's poverty, but there's affluence in these areas too, and they mesh, and that's what makes the culture what it is, and that's what makes it so beautiful. There's like I live in Inglewood now, and there's a character that you'll see coming up in this series that's based off of just my own experience that I love. Like I have this, whenever I miss a package at my house, I have to go to this stupid post office that's only open from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Only 2 people can go in to the post office at a time because it's just for safety reasons. So it has like, they have to buzz you in, it's already very small. And so there's always a long line. I remember standing in this line and seeing this dude who was talking on the phone in front of me. He had like, you know, these Gucci loafers and a white beater, and he was carrying his young daughter in his hand. And he was like cursing out this dude on the phone, like, I don't give a fuck, I swear to God, like, and don't nobody test me. And then every, like, 3 seconds, he'd be like, hey, baby, you good? You hungry? You want daddy to pick you up? Daddy will pick you up, okay? I got you. So, nigga, I'm telling you. Come. And it was like, this is so beautiful. And that's us. That's our culture. And it's moments like that I wanted to depict in the show, because it's not something that we dismiss, but it's a reflection.
That's another reason I'm so glad that you're going to have this on HBO, so it can have, you know, wide distribution. You know, here in Chicago, when I travel outside of Chicago, the first thing people ask me about, how many people were shot this week? How many people were killed this week? And I said, that's not all of Chicago. You know, there was a movie, and so a while ago, there was a movie called Love Jones that I love, just love that movie. Yeah, and other movies, and I like being able to show other experiences. Everything is not, you know, I love Boys in the Hood and John Singleton. I love, but you have to show the whole spectrum of our lives.
And that's what I love about this time, because I feel like we're getting an opportunity to do that. And I mean, it only took 20 years. I feel like, you know, in the 90s, there was an abundance of various reflections and varied reflections, the diversity of Black people, and then that disappeared. But now it just feels like there is a new renaissance of people being able to tell their story. To be a part of that time is such an honor. To just be a fan of television, you know, a fan of the works that a lot of my peers are putting out, and then to see what like Ava and Donald Glover are doing, and you know, Gina Prince-Bythewood, like there's so many experiences, and no show is the same, because that's a reflection of just who we are as people. So I'm excited to see the multitude of stories that are going to be told, provided that things change behind the scenes. But that's another story.
Another question I want to ask, and I hope this doesn't offend you, but some people were comparing you to like Lena Dunham or Amy Schumer. Is that
It doesn't offend me. It's just like I do feel like it's a lazy comparison. I say that, like, because I'm a fan of both. I like both of their voices a lot, and I know that they have worked hard to be very specific in theirs, and so like respect the fact that I have too, and we all have different voices, and I think that you can watch all of our work and realize that we're just telling different stories. We have different tones, and just because we're women doesn't mean that that we should be compared. It's kind of irritating. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, this is how I want you to be compared. I want you to get the same opportunities they get. I want you to make the same money that they get. I want you to have movie deals. I want HBO to treat you so well that I call you are mogul in training, and I want to see you writ large out there. You already are all across the YouTube sphere, but I want you in everything. This is what I wish.
Can you write a letter to...
The last thing I want to ask, because we have to take questions from the audience as well. I wanted to ask, I see that Larry Wilmore was a co-creator of the first episode. And also that you have, Melina Masukis as the director. Can you tell us a little bit about working, first of all, with Larry Wilmore?
Larry was such a blessing just to work with him, because I was coming off of a time when, first I had an amazing opportunity with Shondaland. I tell this story a lot, but it was just like a testament to just keep going. But I had an opportunity with ABC and Shondaland to produce a pilot called I Hate LA Dudes. And that was a great experience and a huge learning experience. First, to be able to work with someone I admire so much, and I worked mainly with her producing partner, Betsy Beers, and for me, I felt like that was my only shot, and I was like, I got one shot, don't mess this up, and that made me very eager to please, and that made me not be able to navigate notes very well. So there's Shondaland, and I work intimately with them, and I work directly with them, and they held my hand through the process. And then once you submit your script, it goes to ABC, but that means it goes to the network and the studio under this umbrella, and they're not necessarily the same thing, and they don't have to be on the same page. So I would get notes from both sides that didn't necessarily fit my vision, but I was like, okay, I'll make it work. Yeah, no, I can work. They conflict, but I guess I can try to make them fit, and that was because I wasn't very firm in the story that I was trying to tell. I wasn't confident in my own vision. And at the end of the day, when I returned the script, it showed. And so they passed on the pilot. They were like, nah, no, thank you. And rightfully so, because it was kind of it became very generic and it wasn't specific. So I was devastated that I felt like it was a disappointment and kind of blew my one shot. And then a month later, HBO called. And they were like, hey, we heard you're free. Do you have any other ideas? And so that led me to want to develop Insecure, because I knew that I already had Awkward Black Girl on. We had 24 episodes. So I knew I wanted to do a different show that fit more, that was more grounded, and that fit their sensibility a bit more too. And so I wrote a pitch for them, and they bought it. And then to run a writer's room, I'd never run a writer's room. Always very clear about I want your voice to shine. I want to make sure your story is being told, and that that doesn't change. And we would all constantly check in. And then together we were trying to find a director for a while. It took a while because we wanted it to be exciting, we wanted it to be fresh. And we threw a couple names around. HBO had some ideas. And then finally they were like, well, if you had to take a risk, throw some names out there, because sometimes risk can be terrible, but sometimes they can be great. And I was like, well, if y'all want to take a risk, there's this director I really like. She's done a lot of Beyonce videos and Rihanna videos, and it's just really cool. And at that time, she only had the On the Run trailer that was the closest thing to a narrative that she had, but it was still dope. And they liked that, and they asked her to come in for a meeting, and she killed that meeting, and we became Three the Hard Way.
in the and we got y'all with that the logo of the white hand holding the little black children. There's someone in the audience. His name is Tyrone Studemeyer. He's with the Hyatt, and he teaches diversity. And he always says, "Diversity without inclusion leads to confusion." And that's what it made me think of when I was watching that.
Yeah, there are a lot of confused people that work.
Anyway, one other thing. I was wondering, because your music is so kind of I'll just say, aggressively lyrical rap. I was wondering, and I noticed that, is that a creative decision, bringing it over from some of the things that you did in, like, Awkward Black Girl, or was it something that people voted on YouTube and said, this is what we want to hear when you go over? How did you choose?
Oh, that was definitely a conscious decision to want to use that device. I just thought that device was always really funny one for a passive aggressive person to do, to have these like aggressive lyrics and not be the best at them, but still feel like this is how I'm getting it out of my system by any means necessary. And then I just love the bathroom as a device too, because I feel like the bathroom is where most of my ideas come from, because it's when you're most vulnerable. It's when you're facing yourself in that mirror and it's just you. It's when you don't have any devices. It's just you alone with your thoughts, and you're kind of forced to acknowledge what you're dealing with or your feelings. And so that as an intimate, very vulnerable, like raw, real setting attracted me to use in this particular show. And so you'll see that throughout, used as a device for you to find out how she really feels and what she's really thinking.
Okay, let's open it up for a few questions from the audience. Robin, will you help me? Oh, you have the mics. Thank you. Right here, please.
Hello.
Hello.
So my one question is, when I looked at the episode, how do you feel about the way that black men were portrayed, and the way in which it seemed like it was going for like a negative outlook on it?
I feel great. But I will say that I really encourage you to watch the series, because just Jay Ellis, the depth that he brings to this character is just phenomenal. He's a very, very versatile actor. You'll see. I'm so happy that we were able to get him on this project, the audition, and just nailed it. So before you kind of jump to conclusions, like watch the show and you'll see what happens.
How many episodes do you have total?
We have 8 episodes total.
Okay, all right. And you've seen just 1 episode so far.
But yes, please watch it and you'll see. If you still feel the same way by the end of the series, then hit me up.
Microphone.
Hi.
Hey.
That's loud. I'm already a loud person too. So, my name is Michelle, and I just want to say thank you so much for first writing the book, Awkward Black Girl, because I didn't know I was awkward until I watched the series and read the book. And then also just for Insecure. I'm kind of like Molly, so I get to work and white people love me. And I'm just like, watching her and having her turn it on and go in the bathroom and turn it off, that's me every day. Like, I'm in a meeting and I'm going, oh my God, I could just kill everybody. Because they look at you and they're like, what does this mean? And did you know this? Like, I'm not the spokesperson for every black person. I don't know all this stuff. So I appreciate that you took that you were authentic when you were writing it, and it shows through, and the differences, like you were talking about earlier, the differences between you and Molly, because people think that either you fit in or you don't fit in. But there's a lot of us, and there's different ones to do. So my question is, how does your family feel about the pilot and the episode? I read your book, and so I'm just wondering, what did your mother say?
So my mom saw it for the first time in New Orleans, and I mean, I didn't really get to see her reaction. My brother was sitting next to her, and I was kind of reserved because she doesn't like colorful language, and she's always like, "I didn't teach you that." But when my brother was sitting next to her, he was like, "Mom was singing Broken Pussy." Afterwards, and she was very proud. It was just like, I'm proud of you for telling the story. She said that she could relate, and that made me happy and concerned me at the same time. And then my dad, I'll find out what he thinks October 6th when he comes to the premiere. I don't know what to expect.
2 more questions. Microphone.
So when you're, the white people who are a part of the show, when you all are going over the script when you're acting it out, do you feel like they get it, or are they asking questions about the references? How does that play out?
Sometimes they do, but sometimes they look it up. Sometimes they'll be open about, like, honestly, I didn't know what on fleek meant, and I didn't want to ask you just based off of the script, so I went and looked it up. And I was like, that's what you're supposed to do. Good job. Make some references? No, they didn't get. Sometimes that was kind of a battle in certain areas. Like, we feature the AKA organization, and there was a very specific reason why we were featuring it. And in terms of like even permission to be able to use that, we were having a hard time for a particular like house that we wanted to use, and some of the producers were just like, well, why can't we just do this other organization? They're like, Sigma is available and they're saying they can do it, or the Alpha Phi Alpha is, can we do it? And it was just like, just let us. We got this, we'll figure it out. So things like that, where it was just we wanted something very specific, and we were kind of just unapologetic about what we wanted. And people listen.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle. And I was wondering, you talked about Lena Dunderman, some of the other, Amy Schumer and some other writers. What are your thoughts on room for other voices, just in general? There's always amongst writers who are aspiring, the room for more voices. Once one voice is out there, you don't have room for more.
I'm a champion of other voices. Just being a fan, I support other voices. I shout out from the rooftops. I think at this point, what I was saying earlier is that it's a great time. Because I'm not the only voice. Ava's not the only voice. Donald's not the only voice, and the pressure isn't on one person to represent everything for all Black people or all people of color. And that's great, and we need more of that. And that's what we've been trying to say for years. Like, we just wanted this balance of portrayal, that we're not only reality show characters, and we're not, only even Olivia, we're not all Olivia Pope. And so I'm sure, like, Shonda's got to be relieved, like, okay, now y'all can stop coming for me to represent all Black women and to represent, relationships. So, like, things like that are necessary and crucial. So I'm very happy that there are diverse voices out there, and there's so many more stories to tell.
One of the things that we have here in Chicago is the Black Harvest Film Festival, and that's what this is part of tonight. And Alvin is in the audience here, and one of the, and this is an answer to your question, they are always open to other voices, always. And I think, just as you're saying, this is the dawn of a new consciousness. Make sure that you get to the polls to vote in November. I'm not going to do anything about it. This is the dawn of a new consciousness. consciousness, there will be a rise of voices from everywhere, and you have to make your voices heard. I'm not talking about just voting. I mean in every way, in every way. So I'm not going to get on a soapbox about that. I just get so happy when I think it's so beautiful when someone like you uses your voice for good, to make us laugh, to make us cry. I just thank you so much.